Did you all see that video of Claire and Dale? Take a look. The Bachelor, Matt James, Night 2, let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying these reviews, please pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a new YouTuber and I'm really trying to grow my channel, and the likes and subscribes really help me out. Now, I will say from the jump, this episode was very bizarre. Let's just dive into it and start talking about it. So the episode starts with all the girls at Nemo Cullen. They're drinking mimosas, hanging out, just waiting for their date cards, and Victoria is clearly stirring the pot. Victoria is laying the bait and she is just waiting for one of the other girls to take it. For example, Bree got chosen for the first one-on-one all-day date, and Victoria in front of all the other girls is like,
why do you think he chose her?
And Victoria is clearly implying that Bree did not deserve the date, and she's trying to get the other girls to react to it. And these girls are pretty smart because for the most part, at the beginning, nobody's really taking the bait. Victoria at one point is just ranting off to a producer because, again, nobody's listening to her nonsense. Now, I'm going to talk about Victoria a little more later on in this review, but for now, let's move on and talk about the one-on-one with Bree. Y'all, this date with Bree and Matt was so awkward and it was so clunky. So to start off this all-day date, Matt and Bree go ATVing. And then at one point, Matt asks Bree, do you trust me? Bree says yes, and then hops on the back of Matt's ATV bike. So Matt starts going through the mud and doing all these circles, and the bike flips and they both fall off. And after they fall, the first thing that Matt thinks is, oh my God, Bree's mom is gonna kill me. And the first thing I thought was, how old are you? This sounded very high school to me. It almost sounded like two high schoolers were doing something they shouldn't have been doing. They got hurt and now they have to tell their parents. And then after that, they get into this wood-burning hot tub, and it was so awkward. Like, Matt was barely even looking at Bree. So then we go into the night portion of the date. Now, if you're new to this show, there is a formula to these dates. So for the formula, usually three things happen. They discuss the earlier portion of the date. Then the person opposite of the lead reveals something deep or something emotional about themselves. And then if they reveal something about themselves, they get the rose. Now for this date, Bree and Matt 100% stuck to the formula and they did not deviate at all. And as a viewer, like, nothing about this date seemed organic at all. Now we're going into the group date. For the group date, they're taking wedding photos. Now, I don't understand why ABC keeps traumatizing these contestants like this. You do not need to take wedding photos on a first date. Like, that's a really bad first date idea. And I'm kind of tired of seeing it. Now, two things about when they were taking photos. The first one up was Jessenia. Now, Jessenia, since she was the first one up, decides to go straight for a kiss. And I was like, yuck, I hate when people do this. So for me, a kiss is supposed to be like a one-on-one romantic gesture. But when you do it in front of all the other contestants like this, one, it's disrespectful. And two, you're doing it more as a power move, not a romantic gesture, just to try to like one up all the other girls. Next is Victoria. When she was up for her photos, one, she interrupted Mari. And then the second thing she did is she's wearing a garter. And then she asks Matt to pull it off of her leg. Now, we all know Victoria was doing entirely too much. But as a viewer watching it, it was absolutely hilarious. And I think a lot of people are underestimating Victoria, but I'm pretty sure she knows what she's doing. So Chris Harrison jumps in and cuts the photo shoot short and then tells the girls that they're going to play a game of Capture the Heart. Capture the Heart is essentially just a game of capture the flag. Now, to make it more fun, they give the girls paintballs and then they give them purses and they can dip them in paint and tag the other girls with it. They also have cakes that they can throw at each other as well. Now, this was a very awesome date idea. I just wish the producers had given them some rules. From the start, Chris Harrison said there's no rules. Now, a few things that I do want to mention about this. One, I think it was rigged. Two, they could not have given this to guys if this were The Bachelorette, because this would have gotten way too rough. 3. So the point of the game is to capture the flag. So why would you waste any time with the paint or with the cake or anything? Like, I would just focus on getting the flag and bringing it to the other side. Like, at the start of the game, I was looking for the hearts and you couldn't even see them. Like, why would you waste your time with the paint? I would run, get the heart, run back to the other side, and end the game early. 4, I feel like if you got tagged with paint or tagged with cake, you should move back to the start line, because after you got tagged with paint, like, what was stopping you from still pushing forward? Again, I like this date, but I just feel like it would have been 10 times better if the producers had actually given them some rules. Also, did y'all see Kristin in the bonnet when she was playing this game? I am not mad at her. I'm black too, and I completely understand the black hair struggle, and paint is a to get out of your hair, and I don't think the producers give these girls a lot of time between dates to get ready. So they finish up the game and the red team wins. So Katie, the dildo girl, Katie, the vibrator girl, goes to a confessional and she starts crying because she missed out on possible time with Matt. And I'm just like, why are you crying? Like, you don't even know this man. If we were deeper into the season, or if you were falling in love with Matt, this would make more sense, but you have hung out with Matt for maybe 5 minutes tops. Now, this night portion of the group date was one of the parts that was very bizarre to me. There were at least 8 people on this group date. They were Lauren, Jessenia, Victoria, Mari, MJ, Piper, Kit, and Kylie. Now, there were 8 girls on this group date, but we only got to see 3 one-on-ones. Like, what are the producers trying to hide from us? Like, me and a lot of other people have been waiting to see one-on-ones with a lot of the girls in this group, and we didn't even get to see it. And the ones we did get to see, there honestly isn't much to talk about. The first one is Lauren. Yep, it's that time. Outfit of the episode. So I will say, in my opinion, there was not a lot of fashion this episode, but let me give a congratulations to Lauren. She has won the outfit of the episode 2 weeks in a row now. Lauren is wearing this very sexy black striped dress. I don't think it's actual stripes. I just think it's the material of the dress that makes it look striped, but she looks good. Kudos to her. Now, this one-on-one with Lauren and Matt, they are very playful with one another. I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say there's a connection, but there is a little bit of playfulness there. Next, we have a one-on-one with Jessenia. She tells Matt that she's dealt with a lot of infidelity in her past and she has trust issues. Matt tells Jessenia that he's not that type of guy, and then he asks her, is there anything he can do to make her more comfortable? Jessenia replies that a kiss would be nice, and I hate when people have to ask for a kiss. Like, it's not cute. And then the last one-on-one we see is Victoria. During the one-on-one, Victoria says, I have a lot of sides to me too. As much as I may come across as confident, I wanted you to know that, like, I'm still human and I'm not always completely that way. I have my insecurities too. Cause you're such a prize and there's so much on the line. Picking an outfit today was like, aw, I hope I don't look fat. I have these thoughts where I'm insecure. Now, I know you all hate Victoria, but if we're being completely honest, Victoria was being more real than Matt in this moment. And then to end the one-on-one, Victoria asks Matt for a kiss, and I'm like, yuck, I hate when people do that. So at the end of the group date, Matt ends up giving Lauren the group date rose. Now, this is where I wish we could have seen more of the one-on-ones, because I'm sitting here trying to figure out, why was Lauren's one-on-one better than Mari's or Piper's or Kit's? And also, if this was the best one-on-one Matt had with all 8 of these women, then Matt is in trouble. Like, he's probably not going to find love. Because to me, his one-on-one with Lauren was not even all that. Next, we're going into a one-on-one all-day date with Sarah. Sarah and Matt's date was cute. They take a biplane and then they sip some champagne in the woods. It was cute or whatever. Now, there's only a couple things I want to mention about this date. So when they were in the woods drinking champagne, Matt says, I just want you to be authentic and I just want you to be real. Now, this gave me major Peter Weber vibes. Now, Peter Weber was the Bachelor last season, and he was so focused on coaching the girls on how to be real and how to be authentic that he was not taking the time to get to to know them. And I really hope Matt James does not fall into the same trap that he did. And again, just like the date we saw with Bree earlier in the episode, this date was very formulaic. Matt tells Sarah to talk about herself. She reveals something deep and emotional, and then she gets a rose. Now, Sarah is going through some serious things in her life, and I am by no means trying to diminish that. But this conversation was very formulaic, and Matt seems to just be sticking by these formulas. Like, this conversation was not organic. And I saw a slight connection between the two, but honestly, it's too soon to tell. Also, on these dates, Matt seems to be very hyper aware of the cameras. The best way for me to explain this is to compare him to Claire. Claire was the Bachelorette at the beginning of last season, and you could tell when she was on camera, she just acted like the cameras weren't there. And that's what Matt needs to do. He just needs to live the situations and act like the cameras aren't there. And right now, he's not really doing that. Now we're going into the cocktail party. So Matt pulls up to Nemacolin in the throwback Porsche, and let me tell y'all, that car is nice. I'm actually surprised he can fit in it. I would think he's too tall for that car. Now, they rush through these one-on-ones, but there are a few things I want to mention. First is Abigail. So Abigail and Matt make a signal for one another to show that they do, in fact, see one another. It's like they tug on their ear, and this was really cute. Also, when Matt and Abigail end their conversation, Abigail gets up, and I'm just like, dang, she is skinny. Next is Rachael. I do think there is a connection between Matt and Rachael because whenever Matt is around Rachael, he does light up a little bit. And lastly, we have Maggie. You can see Maggie and Matt having a conversation on where Maggie says she's going to make Ethiopian food for Matt. And you all may have not caught this, but Matt asks Maggie, what can I do to help you cook the food? And Maggie responds, you can bring the wine and just make me laugh. So basically, she's like, I actually don't want any of your help in the kitchen. And lastly, we have the Marylynn versus Victoria drama. So Marylynn has a one-on-one with Matt, and Marylynn says that she's not sure if Matt even noticed her. Matt then reassures her and says he noticed her, and he also brought her a gift of some orchids. And he got the idea from her first impression. Now, I'm pretty sure Matt did not notice Marylynn, and I feel like the producers gave Matt these orchids so that she could be a target for Victoria's wrath. So after that, Victoria has another one-on-one with Matt. Victoria tells Matt that Marylynn cries to manipulate situations and that she is toxic. Now, Matt responds in a confessional and says Marylynn is bullying Victoria and he's not about that. That is whack. Now, let's just unpack this whole situation. When Victoria told Matt that she cries to manipulate situations, that is a serious accusation, and Matt really should have dug further. Matt should have asked Victoria, so what situation did she cry over to manipulate? But he didn't do that. All he did was say, okay, I'm gonna look into it. And then when Matt confronts Marylynn about it, Marylynn barely even puts up a fight. And at this point, I'm starting to think that Marylynn is a producer pawn. And then after their conversation, she goes and cries to Abigail and says she can't even do this anymore. And I'm like, girl, this was the first confrontation and barely anything happened. Like, and you're already trying to quit? Either you're not into Matt or you're a producer pawn. Now let's talk more about Victoria. Victoria is stealing the show. She is literally a whirlwind among this cast right now, and the producers are going to keep rewarding her with airtime the more she does it. Now, I have two possible conclusions for this. It's possible that Matt is just a little boring. He's not very good at holding down the whole show, so someone else has to. The other possibility is maybe he wasn't quite ready to be the lead. Now, Matt has never been on this show before, but as the lead, you have to take control of the show. If you do not take control of the show, either the producers will or the cast will. And that's what we're seeing right now. Now, in this Marylynn versus Victoria situation, it very much looks like the producers are just jerking him around and Matt is just not quite sure how to handle it. And I honestly think he's just gonna send Marylynn home. Also, it's possible that these girls really get along and Victoria came in to shake things up. But again, Victoria is stealing the show right now, so we don't know much about the other contestants. And lastly, the rose ceremony. So during the rose ceremony, Sarah talks to a confessional and she says, Victoria ruined the night. Maybe he's seeing a different side of her, but the longer she's here, the more I question my relationship with Matt. And I'm just like, Sarah, what are you doing? You're really questioning your relationship with Matt because of Victoria? If you go on this show, you need to do your homework. And Sarah clearly didn't do her homework. So on The Bachelor and just reality television in general, people are often casted just to start drama. Now, literally, so far, everyone on the cast is very cool and very chill except Victoria, who is starting drama with everyone. So, Sarah, you can't come to the conclusion that the producers are likely telling Matt to keep her. Like, did that not cross your mind at all? And also, if Victoria is the cause of you questioning your relationship, like, that is embarrassing. This girl has never even heard of a strapless bra. Like, if she's the reason you're questioning your relationship, we really need to reevaluate our life choices here. So after that, Sarah walks away from the rose ceremony and you could tell she's distressed, and she said she's seeing stars, and they call the medic. They leave us on this cliffhanger, and that is the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this review, please pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. Again, I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and the likes and subscribes really do help. I hope you all enjoyed this review, and I will see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.